Everyone, happy Valentine's Day and welcome to my weekly edition of Show Me How It's Done. My name is Laura Narbonis and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So I have the pleasure every week of joining you for a little tutorial session where I like to just highlight a technique or a project that I've been working on, and I will walk you through from start to finish how you can join me and make the same thing. Now, if you don't own these items, please feel free to substitute in whatever you do have. And of course, you could use the same techniques, but with a different stamp set. And or maybe this item is now getting added to your wish list. And if that's the case, I do have my website listed at the bottom. If you decide to place an order with me and you're in Canada, I will be sending you a little free monthly kit tutorial for every order over $35, and a little treat as well if your order is over $100. So something to think about. If you're outside of Canada, I thank you for joining me, and I encourage you to just touch base with your demonstrators to get your hands on these goodies too. So let's get started. This weekend, I had the pleasure of crafting with a fellow Canadian demonstrator. Her name is Allison Okamitsu, and I'm going to show you the cards that she designed that we kind of played along with. And then, of course, my brain was all over citrus, so I decided to make a non-traditional Valentine's Day card for today. So it still has a sentiment to kind of show that you're sending love to someone, sending you a big squeeze, but it's not a really typical heart, red, pink, white card. So I thought this would be a lovely way for us to celebrate Valentine's, but also to have a card that, of course, you can use for other occasions too. So before I get into showing you the card in front of you, let me show you a couple of Allison's ideas. And then, of course, they are on my Instagram. So Lauren's Scraplot, you can go get the full pictures and copy these ones yourselves. We're not making them together because I don't like doing these videos based on somebody else's project, but I am using one of Allison's techniques, and I'll show you which one that is later. So here's card number one. There was two different papers to choose from, so I did one of each. And again, two different paper patterns. So I did one of each for that. Last one. So those were the fun cards that I got to make this weekend, and it was just such a pleasure. My husband took the kids for the day and let me just kind of hole up in my office on Saturday. So I had to come out a few times to help with things, but beyond that, I kind of had a day of crafting, which was really, really refreshing for me. I was able to kind of plan a few cards for you guys, plan some of my March classes, and so it was great. So let me get you started on this stamp and die bundle. So we're using Sweet Citrus, as I mentioned. So it's kind of a fun little stamp set. You saw Allison used kind of oranges. I'm using more like grapefruits. And then of course this could also be used for lemons, limes, and I actually even saw somebody turn this one here into a coconut. And that was brilliant in my mind too. So lots of potential for this, and it's actually going to show up in a couple other videos, but I'll try to space them out so they're not all being at the same time. And then there are some really great dies that go with it. So these four would cut out my lovely shapes. And then I have some flowers, and I love when Stampin' Up! Does this. Look, there's two sets of the 3 flowers, 2 sets of the singles, and 2 leaves, because anytime we're cutting out leaves and flowers, Stampin' Up! Knows we use so many of them. So it's really, really good that they offered that option for us in our dies. If you are watching live, please don't hesitate to say hi. I try to keep an eye on the comments, but if I don't catch them, then that's okay. I'll get back to any questions. Okay, let's do this. So to start with, we're going to need a base. I like just kind of a very bright, bold base for this card, so I'm using Balmy Blue. This is 4 1/4 by 11. And we're putting a score mark right at the 5.5 mark so that when I fold this in half, it will be the perfect card front. If you've got a bone folder, that's my favorite thing, to just kind of give a nice crisp line across the top, and you're good to go. Now on the inside of my card, I always like to have something to write on, so I've cut myself a piece of basic white that measures 4 by 5 1/4. Oh, hello, Tanya. Lovely to see you. While you're cutting this, go ahead and cut 2 of them. So cut 2 pieces that are 4 by 5 1/4. One will be for the outside, one will be for the inside. This one you will want to put on with some sort of flat adhesive. And I like my double-sided tape. It's just easy to tear, easy to attach, but we also have our great seal rollers and glue. All right, that's going on the inside here. And then later while I'm stamping, I might come back and add, something like some flowers. I think I didn't do them here, but I could add some flowers to the center and kind of just make it a little fancier. But this can get now moved aside for the moment. We're going to do a lot of work on our front layer, and then we'll start building the card in a bit. So the white piece that I mentioned you're cutting as well, this was a 4 by 5 1/4 piece. I've gone ahead and I've done a little bit of the work. So I took our Sweet Citrus hybrid embossing folder. You ask, why is it hybrid? It's because there's a die that actually goes inside here and will emboss some of these little various fruits. We will do those one day. You can actually see the detail on this one here. Do you see the raised ridges as opposed to the kind of flat pattern here? So that's a whole another technique, and I wanted to focus on this background today. But another video, we're going to show you the full potential of this. But for now, all I did was I ran my white piece through. Keep in mind this is a 3D folder, so you'll need to use that thick plate. If you've got the old one, it'll be blue. If you've got the new one, it'll be dark gray, because this won't fit with your clear plates. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, now we're gonna get inky. So I hope you're okay with that. I do suggest having some sort of scrap under you. So I like to use just one of my old backings from a designer series paper. And we're gonna do a little bit of blending. So you'll need 2 blending brushes and a yellow and a blue ink. So my choices today are Balmy Blue and Daffodil Delight, because I wanted to go with something very subtle and easy to work with. But of course, if you don't own those 2, just substitute them out for something similar. All right, so I'm gonna start with my lightest color. It's just the easiest way to go in case I mix my colors a little. So with my blending brush, I'm just doing circles across my ink pad. And I'm gonna start off the white, because if there's any like clumps of color, I don't want that showing across my card. So I'm gonna start off the white and start going right across the middle of my paper. Okay. I want the darkest to be at the kind of top part of this section, and then it'll fade towards the bottom just in a very, very light color. And I'm leaving a little bit of white showing up here in the bottom. I am going to go over this one more time just at the top. So circular motion to pick up some ink. Go across that top row so that I have kind of an ombre look. I've got very dark yellow, and it gets lighter as I go down. Then, you can close this one up. We're going to take our Balmy Blue and do the top section of this part here. So just, I like to have 2 different blender pens or blends brushes, because otherwise your colors might end up mixing. So have 2 on hand, and then you can clean these just with cool water when you're done. So starting off on the top row, nice and dark, and then coming just right close to the yellow. If you go over top, you're going to end up with a little green strip, because, we all learned that in elementary school. But if you want that, it's not going to be a big deal. Very light color in that bottom, and then darker in the top here. There. Beautiful. So it doesn't matter if there's just even a little bit of white between your 2 layers, then your colors aren't mixing. So here is the technique that Allison taught us, which was using, and I always forget about these beautiful tools, are aqua painters. So this is an old one. Mine are blue. If you order them from the catalog now, they will be white. They're the same thing. Okay, so don't stress. If you order yours and you get them and you realize like, oh, it doesn't look like Lauren's, it's fine. It's the same thing. So basically what this chamber is filled with is water, and there's a little brush on the end that you can use when you're coloring watercolor pencils or when you're doing a fun technique. So on this card, once again, hopefully you can see, do you see these fun little splatters here? That's what's going to happen when we start putting drops of water onto our ink, because this is a water-based ink. So when you add water to it, it's going to disperse a little bit and give you a fun little look. So if you don't have this painter, you can also just take your a little bowl of water, dip your fingertips in and kind of flick it. But if you've got the water painter, squeeze so you've got some water in the end. Then you just gently tap, tap, tap. And you'll have to go quite a bit so that you get lots of water all over. So sometimes I like to even just give myself kind of a pile to dip into. And then tap, tap, tap. Continue. It'll take a few minutes for you to kind of be happy, I think, with your results. It's a very subtle technique. You can already see, do you see the yellow down in here? And we're doing this first because I want it to have time to dry. So regularly, I do a lot of cutting ahead of time for you guys, so you don't have to sit and watch me do things, but I need the time for this paper to dry. So we're gonna do those together today. And when you're happy, you can just set this to the side. If you're in a rush, you can grab your heat tool and kind of heat it, but I prefer just to let it air dry, and you can hopefully see there's quite a bit of a difference between that original solid color and now these fun flecks water. Okay, setting this aside, and we're going to get busy on our layers. So, bring our card back here. We have a lot to do. The only thing that I did have pre-cut was my little circle. This is not from Sweet Citrus. It is the largest of the Stylish Shapes circles. So this is my go-to set with circles, squares, and banners all in one. So it's a really nice purchase because I didn't have to buy 3 different sets. This is the largest of the circles. So I have cut that one out and I'm going to set it aside. We'll do, actually keep it close. That's why, because we need to do the stamping for our little orange or grapefruit slices. So the fun thing is often we like to stamp, you know, the same color on the same color. So my ink today is Calypso Coral. However, I'm not using Calypso Coral paper. I've decided I'm going to use one of our retiring soon colors. This is the Pale Papaya, as I'm really trying to get a lot of use out of those colors before they potentially disappear. They are retiring, but there's always the chance, you know, that something will show up again in a future publication. But let's get stamping. So the stamp comes in 2 parts here. You've got your outside pieces and your inside. Doesn't really matter what one you do first, but I prefer the outside because it will take up the most space on my paper. And then I know for sure that it's going to fit as long as I have it laid out. Okay, so Calypso Coral all over those spots. And stamped right in the middle. Oh, I forgot to grab, where is it? Usually I like to have a foam mat under me when I'm doing my photopolymers. I don't know where it is. Hopefully this works. You can also grab like an old catalog, or even here, you can even grab a paper package just to give yourself a little bit of cushion. A stamp. The Stampin' Pearson mat works really well. Okay, a little faded on my lemon, so the nice thing is I can see clearly where to go back. Just add that tiny bit of color again. Okay, for the inside, this is where you have a lot of potential to either like play around with colors. You could put a different color on the inside, mix and match, kind of make your own tropical fruit. But just for today, I'm going to do the same color inside here. And so once again, that is Calypso Coral. And you're just lining up 3 stamps this time because that lemon is all on its own. Stand. Getting serious. There we go. Okay, there are our pieces. We will die cut that in just a second, but let's go ahead and stamp the rest of what we need for this project. So my next feature is some leaves. I'm going to need 3 of those leaves. So I have my Granny Apple Green paper and Granny Apple Green ink. You could, of course, mix and match with something else too if you wanted. Oh, so I just needed 3 of them. And you'll need a scrap piece of paper because we need to do some flowers for ourselves. But of course, you don't need a giant paper. It doesn't have to be any sort of definition. So I'm using Calypso Coral again. I have mounted that. Oops, I have a hair on here. See it. Come on. There we go. I've mounted the set of 3 flowers, which I'm going to do in full strength, and a set of 1 here. And while your Calypso Coral is open, let's grab that circle and add your sentiment also in Calypso Coral. So I put it right at the top so I had lots of room to add my details down below. Close this up now, and you need something for the flower center. So if you don't have early espresso, then go ahead and grab black or even just orange or red of some sort of shade. So there's 2 fun little kind of dot stamps in here. The individual one is meant for the larger flowers, and this connected one here is meant for the 2 small flowers. So you'll see it does both of them at once. Just gentle, gentle taps. You don't want ink all over these. Gives you some nice flower centers. And then this one is a little larger, and it will go inside your single flowers. Right like that. So let's get our cut and emboss machine ready to go. My paper's still drying. I love to just give it as much time as it can have. So let's do this. Okay. I always find this is a little tricky to show you sometimes, but we'll try it, and I'm gonna stand. Okay, so I've got my flowers. I'm going to run those through, and I could probably fit some of my leaves on here as well, because that's just a scrap. So I have 2 leaf dies, which is great. And I just grabbed some of this Post-it tape off of Amazon. It works really well to hold my dies in place so that they're not moving around. There we go. So there's 1 set. And then risk it and try this one on its own, or I can add the tape to it, which I think I might, just because we're rolling backwards today and I always make a mistake then. Got a nice perimeter, lock you in place. And then this one should fit as well. I almost stamped too close, but I don't think I did. There we go. Okay, these guys are set. Let's grab our other plate and roll them through. Perfect. And I do need a third of the leaves, but I actually, that one I did cheat. I have that one ready to go so that you didn't have to watch me do that again. Okay, sorry. Get all of these pieces out. And last but not least, we've got these 4 citrus pictures. This die is all in one, so all you need to do, have it lined up like so. And I might as well do my leaf because, you know, I'll probably just use that extra one later. They'll fit there. I have lots more of these cards to make. And a little bit of tape to hold this one. All right, fingers crossed. Oh, you moved a little bit. See you. There we go. Always better to notice before you've cut. Here we are. I have 3 leaves. I have all my flowers, so 2 large and 2 small. So now I have all of my citrus pieces. I am ready to go. Let's just move these. Okay. Never want to lose them, but I also don't need them in my workspace. Okay, now you can bring back your background piece because we will need to add it to our base. It should be dry by now. So let's pick it up, and yes, it's great. So because I've embossed this and it has kind of funky texture and a little bit of lift already, you can put it on flat if you use a lot of adhesive, or I also think it looks really nice if you go ahead and pop it up on dimensionals because it's already kind of popping out at you. So this just finishes the job really, but you do need to make sure to use quite a few dimensionals on this one. They're all at different heights and different levels. So there we go, quite a few of them. This will go just on your card front. I put the blue up at the top just because it was kind of like the sky, but that's completely up to you. You can switch it around if you prefer to. Okay, now we're building. So I'm going to start with my circle and I'm going to put dimensionals on that. And that's kind of my focus piece. So I want that up near the top third of the project, kind of between the blue and the yellow sections. And then you can start building. So what I did when I started was I wanted to kind of lay out my pieces and see what looked good, you know, what I actually liked and how I could view them. So for me, I didn't really mind this orientation, but it kind of looked like some of my pieces were just floating away. I could have switched and kind of done that. So that's an option too. But the one that I ended up with, just because of the fact that I actually wanted to put a leaf right in this section, put my large piece kind of under the word big, and then I worked around that. So we're going to put dimensionals behind where that large citrus slice is going. And I like to put the dimensionals just on my white circle, because then if there's any on the bottom that kind of hang off, it's not tilting my whole project. So there's one. Secondly, then I started playing with this guy and wondering, oh, sorry, maybe I'll just move him over just a tiny bit. There you go. Wondering where to put that. And that kind of fits very nicely right up against it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on the edge of this circle here. That will hold this one in place. Then we've got a little kind of empty space over here. So I thought that's a good use for my little lemon, and should probably put him up on dimensionals. So we'll throw a couple of those there. But again, like, this is your card, so you have all these fun pieces. You can sit here and play around and orientate them however you wish. And then last but not least, I've got this slice, which I am actually going to pop up on 2 more dimensionals and place over top of these 2 pieces here. So it's cute, but the green really makes things pop. So we're going to start with one of our leaves. Just put a dimensional kind of on the end where the 2 leaves meet. Tuck them back here. Oh, did I take the backing off? Yeah, I did. Okay. We've got another leaf. This one, maybe I'll just tuck in between here. So I'll just put a little tape, or if you had some glue dots, that would be great too. And this one just gets tucked kind of between your lemon looking piece and the large circle. And for my last set of leaves, I'm going to tuck it behind the tag actually, because I thought it would make it the whole tag kind of to life a bit. Tucking that probably there. That'll be good. I think my circle's a little moved. This one. There. That'll be good. And then you have some flowers. So the fun thing with these flowers is the large ones, they look really beautiful. You take your bone folder or even a pair of scissors, just kind of run the edge along that flower petal. They kind of come to life a little bit more than when they're just flat. And a little dot of glue or a glue dot are the perfect ways to add these flowers on. So I don't know where my glue dots ran away to, so I'm just going to use a dot of glue. Large one in place. We'll tuck this other large one right beside that leaf there. And then my little ones, you can go ahead and try and pop them up a little bit if you'd like. They're a little bit trickier because it's so tiny, but you can get a little bit of lift out of them. Or one thing that I saw one time at conference was Shelley Gardner. She took a flower and then she just did this. And we were all like, oh, what are you doing? She sat there and crumpled her flower up completely so that it had a really, really nice amount of texture on it. And then when she opened it up again, you could see the fibers in the paper had kind of broken up a little bit. And it was such a pliable flower for her to work with. So this one isn't on my card, but you can see how beautiful the texture is of that flower. And that's an option for you too. If you wanted to kind of be a little risky and squish your flowers up, you can get something really beautiful out of them too. Maybe you'll do that technique on another card. This one I just set in place like that. There you go. And that's it. It's a lot of cutting, but not too bad if you're kind of organized and you run things through a little bit together. And this background is just so much fun. So I hope that you guys play with it a little bit, maybe use your own color combinations, but just whatever inks you're using, you can do this technique with any of the colors because these are all water-based dye inks. You'll get the same effect. So it'll be interesting for you guys to see which ones give you the most reaction. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great Valentine's Day, whatever you're doing. I'm excited to see what my kiddos bring home. They worked really hard on signing all of their Valentines, so I'm sure they're very excited to see what they get, and yeah, it'll be great. So I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I will see you, actually I won't see you next week, just a heads up. I will be recording a video for you, but have a field trip with one of the kids. So watch at noon. The video will still post, but it actually won't be me live next week. But that's okay. I'll see you the week after. Have a great time. And yeah, if you like the video, just like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Bye.